thank you all for coming today. And I think it's a very, very serious moment in Nevada's history, and I think it's a moment that really deserves a significant dialogue, and it deserves our attention. We are faced, and we have been faced over the last 3 years, with the most significant recession in Nevada history. In response to that, we've cut budgets. In response to that, higher education has found itself as the budget balancer. Let's put this in perspective just for a moment. Since 2007, over the last 2 biennial periods, UNLV has lost $49.6 million. That's about 27% of our budget. The current proposal that we are looking at from the governor is a little hard to understand. You heard a 7% cut, then you heard a 17.6% cut. But if you actually drill down and look at the numbers and ask, how much budget will we have in the last year of the biennium? For our state higher education system, that budget will be reduced by 29.1% from current levels. For UNLV, that reduction distills down to another $47.5 million cut, 27.5% of our budget. And to put this in perspective, that would in effect double the cuts over the last 4 years. It would replicate those cuts, but we do it in 2 years instead of in 4 years. Now, I have been quoted as saying that is an unimaginable cut. And I would submit to you that it is indeed unimaginable. It's unimaginable if you believe that we're important to Nevada. It's unimaginable if you believe there needs to be a better future. It's unimaginable if you believe that access to the dream of higher education and a better job and a globally competitive workforce are critical for our region. And so today, we're going to take a moment. We're going to discuss the implications of this budget cut. I've brought to the stage some of the finest of our university representatives from many different stakeholder groups. We have the chairman of our Board of Regents, James Dean Levitt. Thank you very much. We have Regents Alden and Regents Kevin Page. We have our VP for Business and Finance, Jerry Bamani, our Executive Vice President and Provost, Michael Bowers. We have the head of our Graduate Student Association, Kyle. Kyle, thank you for being here. A graduate student who is completing his PhD at this moment. We have David, who's our, David Rappaport, who's our undergraduate president. We have Cecilia Maldonado, our Faculty Senate Chair. We have Matt Engel, our alumni president. We have Mark Fine, our Foundation Board president, and we have Rob Coriolis, the head of the Presidential Advisory Committee, and someone who's been helping a lot in the university around issues of diversity for the last year and a half. And today what we want to do is we want to discuss the implications of the numbers that I've just stated to you, and I have brought this team up to express themselves on the topic, and I need to first recenter a conversation that started with the State of the State address, and then turn to my colleagues on this stage to have their perspectives on what has happened and how we will proceed. Let me first start by saying, some of you heard higher education was broken. I will tell you that higher education is not broken. Higher education is doing its job. Now, to be fair, we can all improve. And what I want to highlight right now at this moment is that while we have been cutting our budget radically over the last 4 years, your good works, our students, our faculty, our professional staff, our classified staff, have been taking on more work. You have stepped up. You have delivered classes. You have improved your curriculum. You have made monumental strides in a very short period of time in promoting student success. We are seeing turned around graduation rates, and we are producing well over 6,000 graduates a year from UNLV. Just think about that number. Over 6,000 graduates a year injected into our economy, on top of a base that by the end of this year will exceed 100,000 alum generated by our institution. Now, that work was done by you. And I will tell you, I am very proud of what you've done. I am proud of your great work ethic. I am proud of how hard you've strived to improve education delivery for our students. I am proud of your research accomplishments. We've also been working in the realm of economic diversification. We've also been working in the realm of providing services to our region. When we bring in the Brookings Institute and the Lindsay Institute to support regional nonprofits and to help us be better and more able to vision the future. When you look at something like the Center for Business and Economic Research, providing high-quality economic information to our region, you know we serve. The LEAD Institute. I can go on. We have clinics that we offer, the law schools clinics, marriage and family therapy clinics. We have the psychology clinics that we offer. Our dental students, having treated over, I believe, 57,000 patients on a pro bono or very reduced rate level, providing critical services for parts of our population who simply can't afford them. When you take a look at our healthcare professionals, our fantastic nursing program, a nursing program that has the highest registration pass rate in the state, when you take a look at all the different things we do, I am very, very proud of this institution. Our achievements in our short 50-year history are nothing short of stellar. And yet, I know we have more to do for the state. And yet, I know we can go farther and we can run faster. But we can't do it while cutting our budget at this kind of a level. So the first thing I want all of you to know is, I am proud of you. I believe in you. We all believe in this institution. We are all committed to a mission of increasing the number of highly educated citizens in Nevada and Southern Nevada. We are all committed to the mission of building our economy and providing a well-trained workforce to our region. We are all committed to a vision of being partners with the private community, partners with our city, partners with our state in building a more sustainable and a better future, and making sure that we can help those who dream of a better life attain that better life. Without you, none of that happens. So, where are we now, and what do we do? I will tell you that rather than get down in the weeds of specific details of the budget discussion, I want to, for a moment, simply lay out for you the process that we are going to have to follow as we move forward. And I realize that we are sitting on stop waiting for go, but I think it's important to give you a bit of perspective. The governor has a proposal. I believe that the governor is attempting to get our attention. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. That proposal currently, with the level of cuts that have been proposed, simply cannot be responded to on a university and college by college level. The first step for consideration of the governor's budget will be on February 3rd, when our Board of Regents deliberates on the implications and impacts of that budget. Following that meeting, it will then be our turn to begin thinking about it. But we are at the beginning of a long process, and we've seen the sharp stick at the beginning of the process. Our legislators have already spoken. Many of them have said, this budget doesn't serve the needs of Nevada, and it doesn't serve the needs of Nevada citizens. So we need to now enter into that dialogue wholeheartedly. Because if our voice is missing, I know what will happen, and we will not be served. We need to participate in the legislative process. We need to communicate with our elected leadership. We need to be engaged. Our legislators will develop a proposal. It will go to the governor. The governor will veto it, or he will not veto it. If he vetoes it, then it will come back, and there will be another round in which that veto can either be overridden, or there'll be special sessions in which modifications and bargaining will occur and something else will come out. I cannot believe that the current budget will stand. If the current budget stands, it will drive, I believe, one of the most dire sets of decision-making on behalf of our regents and in this university that we have ever seen. So, our future is at stake. The future of our state is at stake. The future of the good students who are here is at stake. And we need to focus. We can start that process by communicating with our legislators, letting them know the individual stories of our students, letting them know the good works of our faculty, letting them know how we serve. And I've already said, we serve in so many different ways. What we need to do is participate. We cannot be silent. On Saturday, there will be a town hall meeting at the Grant Sawyer building. You're going to hear a little bit more of that from Kyle George momentarily. And what I believe is that we will have a collection of students, faculty, business leadership, alumni, who will be at that meeting to help let our legislators know what's at stake and to tell the good story of what we do and to tell the story of why we need to be able to continue our mission and why it's so critical for our state. I hope you'll come. And I know there'll be many, many people there trying to talk, but just the weight of your support makes a difference. As we launch through this process, I believe that there will be many different dialogues occurring. There'll be the dialogue that occurs between us and various elected officials and legislators, and there will be a dialogue going on between higher education leadership and the governor's leadership team. At this time, my most generous interpretation of the budget that we have seen put in front of us is that someone's trying to get our attention, and they have. Our governor has proposed a budget that is not status quo. I believe he feels that a status quo budget will give you status quo results. You've heard him ask for change. I believe that we are that agent of change. I believe that we can deliver change, we can improve, and we can be leaders, even on a national level, in how to perform at a very, very high level. And I think that we now need to have a dialogue. Having caught our attention, we need to have a genuine dialogue about what Nevada expects out of higher education, what the future will look like, and how we can best help Nevada deliver the promise of a better future. And I honestly believe that no one wants to be tagged as the person who diminished us as a state, who cut off pathways to success, and who led us to a place where we could not be globally competitive. On that note, I say to you one more time, we will need your voice. You will be getting from many different sources opportunities to interact. We will keep you posted. We will be in close communication with all campus constituents. We will revise our budget webpage as the legislative session goes on. Our colleges and our advancement office has produced something I'm referring to as an advocacy toolkit. In here is a very simple list of what we hope for from the session and a list of what we deliver to the community. If any of you need one of these, it's available online. and it's available in print format. As you go to talk to the many different constituents you interact with, please share this information with them, because we need to make sure the good news of our successes is shared broadly with our community, because that is the key to making sure that Nevada respects what we offer and that we in turn will be able to continue the good works that we've started. This toolkit has priorities for us in the legislative session. It has Q&A. It has a rehash of the budget numbers that I've just given you. We'll be updating it periodically, and hopefully it will provide a convenient first tool for you as you interact with your friends. I also want to suggest that as we proceed through the session, you stay closely tuned to the information that we're sending you. We will send you specific information about specific initiatives. Tops amongst those, and I believe perhaps most critical for our state, is an ongoing dialogue that we've been having about economic diversification. You've heard the governor say it's a top priority. You've heard our legislators say it's a top priority, and you know Las Vegas believes it's a top priority. Let's just start with a couple quick tidbits. 20% of our population has a higher education degree. We're asking to become a globally competitive technology workforce. If you read the Milliken report that just came out, it said our capacity to respond to high-tech business is 46th in the United States, and that our human capital to deliver a high-tech workforce is dead last in the United States. Dead last because of a lack of degree production and a lack of degree production in critical science and technology areas. Sadly, because we don't even have the industrial base for high tech, many of our good engineering and science students go to other states to pursue careers. We have the capacity to meet the need, but our state doesn't have the capacity to attract the business. We're a part of that. We're a solution. We're a big piece of the puzzle in these areas. If we're going to have a better and more diversified economic base, then our institution, the research that we deliver, the degrees we deliver, so that we can become competitive with cities like Denver, Salt Lake City, Phoenix, cities where 40% of the population has higher education degrees, is absolutely and utterly critical. We must continue to produce highly qualified graduates, and we do produce highly qualified graduates. And if you doubt that, bear in mind that we're one of the few universities nationwide that has delivered Goldwater scholars, Fulbright scholars, and Truman scholars all in the same year. And I know Peter Starkweather's probably bursting with pride over that. We are a phenomenal institution. And I just have to say to all of you, if you are concerned about the economic future of the state, then you have to be concerned about UNLV, because there's no other institution that can deliver the graduates or the research base on a statewide level as well as we can. With that comment, I'm going to now turn the podium over to Cecilia Maldonado from our Faculty Senate, followed by Chair James Dean Levitt of our Board of Regents. And I know that Cecilia has words for all of you and all of our faculty and needs to share her concerns about the budget. Thank you, Cecilia.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to come before you again. I've enjoyed my time getting to know many of you and the issues that have plagued our campus. I'm sure that all of you are feeling anxious about the projected cuts to our institution and to our system. I agree with the president that cuts at that magnitude are unimaginable. Unimaginable because the governor seems to talk about numbers, but we're a people behind those numbers, and we are people who impact other people's lives in this state. And cuts that devastating would really impact the job that we do or are capable of doing. I'm really proud of the fact that we have met the previous challenges brought by poor economic conditions in the state. I read in other states how higher education is looked upon and how they're supported. And as an investment in the state's future. That is the message that we need to continue to send to our legislators, and that we should continue to get that out to decision makers in our state. Therefore, I call each of you to action, to communicate on a regular basis with your legislators, to tell your stories, to tell them all the wonderful things you do in the classroom, all the wonderful work you do with students, how you transform their lives. Since I've read in the paper about economic diversification and how higher education is such a critical portion of that, and it doesn't seem to impact them, we need to tell our personal stories. And I call each of you to action to do so. I know that Dr. Bolt in Advancement will be making videos of faculty and students and talk about how UNLV has impacted their lives. Faculty Senate will also be active in gaining those stories as well. I encourage you to communicate with them. I encourage you to communicate with me and other Senate members. Thank you for all of the work that you do. Continue to do that work so that we can maintain what we're doing in the state. Thank you.
And I'd now like to ask the chairman of the Board of Regents, James Dean Levitt, to please come up and tell you what the board's perspective is and how they feel about our campus.
First of all, how about a standing ovation for President Smotrisk and Cecilia Maldonado? President Smotrisk asked me to tell you how the Board of Regents feels about the governor's proposed budget, so let me tell you what the Board of Regents feels about the governor's proposed budget. It's absolutely outrageous and will result in cataclysmic changes to the Nevada system of higher education. Let me say it one more time. The proposed budget by the governor is outrageous and will result in cataclysmic changes to the Nevada system of higher education. The governor had a lot of things right when he delivered his State of the State speech. And a lot of what he had right was economic development, diversification, working together, shared sacrifice. Not just from higher education, shared sacrifice. That means from every single citizen of the state of Nevada to support what we value most. It perplexes me when we talk about taxes and we don't substitute the word investment. To talk about diversification, to talk about the new economy, to talk about the information age, to talk about the future of Nevada without inextricably linking it to higher education, we have this information, this knowledge, this intellectual capital that if we tax can do more to solve the problems of this state because we can't cut our way to prosperity. It's never worked in Nevada. It's not going to work in the future. I want to close today by thinking about inventing the future. The governor needs help from each and every one of us in this room, but we are the ones most responsible for inventing the future of Nevada and the state that the governor sees in the future, the state that we see in the future. It will never happen without the right investment in higher education. You have my complete support over the next 4 months. I'm going to give each and every one of you my cell number right now. Any suggestions that you have that I can take directly to the governor, that number is 702-277-5555. We're going to need each and every one of you in this room working together like we've never done before. I am so pleased and confident in the leadership team that we've assembled here at UNLV, from the members of the Board of Regents to the president, to the foundation, to the Alumni Association, faculty senates, staff, and probably more important than any other group, our students whom we serve Let's work together, let's preach the gospel, let's save the state of Nevada, and let's invest in the future of Nevada, higher education.
I understand that our other regents may have short remarks that they'd like to make. Regent Alden?
Hard act to follow. I'm the bean counter. I lived in Nevada since '62. My family has been here since '31. I tell people I'm a Nevada-Reno graduate. I tell people I'm a conservative Republican. Nobody believes me. But one thing I'm going to tell you, this budget is nuts. I'm just going to give you 4 figures to think about. It costs $26,000 to incarcerate per person. It costs on an average of $6,000 per person to educate. We have the highest incarceration rate per capita in the nation. 84% of them return. And there's no education for the non-heinous crimes. Georgia, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Oregon, they figured it out. They educate the non-heinous people that are in prison, and they would cut their rate in half, down to about 42%. Look at the state budget. I'm more familiar than Klinger. I call him Klinger the clerk. The only increase in the state budget, I believe, is $50 million for prisons. Wow. Why don't we just put all the students in prison? We don't even have to have higher education. Brian Sandoval said a lot of things right, but he's got higher education dead wrong. And we will fight as a board to the last blood dripping from our veins to get this changed. Thank you.
I knew we could count on our regents for a bit of polemic. And now I'd like to ask Kyle George to come up.
So I didn't prepare remarks like the others might have, so I'm going to go off the cuff. And I've been told to go many places in the past, but not prison quite yet. So, but the points that have been raised are all very thorough and very complete, so I won't add to that. What I will talk about is what we've done in the past few months to prepare to get to this point. I wear 2 hats as a student leader. I am the president of the Graduate and Professional Student Association, the graduate student government here. And I also serve as the chair of the Nevada Student Alliance, which is the statewide body of student body presidents. Along with my colleague, David Rappaport, we've spent the last 6 months actually forming solid coalitions across the state to make sure that when we go forward to the legislature this year, we go forward as one united voice, as one unified voice, where we aren't pitted against each other. And I think this year more than ever, this is really critical. It is easy to make the assumption that in the face of these dire cuts that, well, maybe there's certain bodies, certain institutions that we can do without as a state. And it's very tempting to go down that road as we realize what it will mean to us if we don't explore that. It's a dead end. There is no success, no one wins if we follow that road. And I think I speak for the regents again when I say that we are united in this. Not only have we formed a solidified, unified student voice over the past few months, we've also worked closely with the Faculty Senate, and we're forming relationships with the Alumni Association, with the Board of Regents and the administration to make sure that when students go forward, we are educated, we are familiar with all the issues, we're able to speak on the nuances and understand the implications of these cuts. Tomorrow, January 29th, the legislature will be holding a series of town halls across the state. here in Las Vegas. It's going to take place at the Grand Sawyer Building, and I encourage each and every one of you to get the word out, first of all, to have your students show up at this event. It is difficult for me to go to legislators and say, this is what students want, when they have not heard this directly from students. Over the past few years, we've done a tremendous job of mobilizing students and vocalizing the concerns of students, but I cannot do this without the help of everyone sitting in this room. I would ask that you take every opportunity you can to educate your students, your constituents, the people you interact with. Let them know the potential implications of these cuts. You let them know that their voice is heard when we go to Carson City, when we go to Grand Sawyer Building, and we ask that they remain engaged in this process. It's easy to be discouraged. I've been doing this for 2.5 years now, 3 years now, and I'm tired of doing it. I'm tired of every year around this time, we say, hey, budget cuts are coming back around, it's time to start fighting again. I can only fight so much without the help, without the support of the people sitting in this room, and I hope that I can count on your support. Thank you.
Part of the purpose of today's town hall will be to get questions answered, and I know many of you have questions, but part of the purpose of today's town hall is to let you know just how much support the community has for you. As a prominent leader in our community, the chairman of our foundation board, the head of our foundation board, Mark Fine, is someone who can speak to how the community feels about our university and what they'll be willing to do for us. Mark?
Well, as I look around the room, and I see familiar faces, but I see a lot of filled seats, which is very nice. It reminds me of an old saying from one of our great patriots, Samuel Johnson. Now, if we have any historians, this may be bad in front of historians and educators. I may have it wrong, but he was, but Samuel Johnson was a great patriot and who made a great statement the night before he got hung for treason. And it was, he said, there's nothing like a hanging in the morning to make a man concentrate the night before. And what I'm seeing here is a group of people coming together in a village made up of students, graduate students, faculty that want to maintain the structure of this university, and nobody wants it more than this community, by the way. We've worked very hard, and I'll tell you just how long. I've been on this board for almost 30 years. We've seen people, presidents. I've worked with all the different presidents over that period of time, and I've seen this university grow in so many quality ways. My background is real estate developer, so don't hold that against me. I found out when I ran for mayor about 12 years ago that the only person lower on the food chain of life than a mob attorney is a real estate developer. But I thought I was a good real estate developer. I did projects like Green Valley, Summerlin, and I did communities where I wanted to raise my own children, and I did things that I thought were good for my family, which I thought were good for other families. And one of the key components of that was the development of this university. It was an educational system, K through 12, but the development of university, because I believe that the quality of a community is dictated by the quality of its university. And the progress that this university has made over the last 30 years that I've been involved has been astounding. When you consider that 50 years ago this was started, when I got involved, it was just emerging, transforming itself from a community college to a university, and doing the things that it's doing today with over 100,000 graduates. So there's a couple of observations I want you to make. This is the most important thing to our community, and just as a sideline, isn't it ironical that everybody's talking about economic development, and the key backbone to economic development is a strong university, and they want to dismantle. I mean, they're talking about budgets that dismantle the university, so it's kind of a contradiction as far as that's concerned. But from a community point of view, we look at this university as something that we're very proud of. We've never had better support as far as the leadership in this community. I know you look at it in terms of jobs and preservation and maintaining the quality. We look at it as in the same way from the community. This is an integral part of what this community is all about. It's an integral part of the future. The community's never been more engaged in this discussion than it is right now, and for a lot of reasons, one of which is that for 30 years we had the fastest growing community in the country. So if we had a discussion about economic development and the university and the part the university plays, even though it was very important, it would never get the attention that it's getting today. The way this has grown and the contribution that it makes has never been more important. The leadership that you have at this community, at this university, this community, this village, which is led by Neil and directed by the Board of Regents, has never been stronger. You have a guy, Neil Smatrisk, who is like the Energizer Bunny. I've never seen anything like it. He's everywhere. I'm sure that he's been cloned, but he's literally everywhere. He's working day and night for the benefit of you. He's working day and night for the benefit of this community, and he's the guy that we can get behind. He's got a plan. He won't tell us what the plan is. He has a plan, a legislative plan, a legislative strategy. We are all engaged. I'm glad to see that you're all engaged. I love to see the students involved. I love to see the graduate students involved. I love to see the engagement of everybody. I'm glad to see that we're starting out the year getting educated in terms of what we can do as opposed to some kind of crisis at the end of the legislature. But you've got to start today, and you've got to stay involved. We're involved. We'll be there for you. We are not going to get this university will not be dismantled in any kind of way. It has to be the asset, and it has to be the way that leads us to the future, and we all have to work together to make sure that reality takes place. So thank you very much, Sherry Support, and I assure you that your community is going to work harder than you to make sure that you can continue to do your good work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Check's in the mail. I think you're getting a sense that we have never had more community support, but there are other elements of our community that are ready, willing, and able to really help us out. And so I'd also like to ask if Matt Engel would please come up. Matt is running our Alumni Association. He, too, has been like the Energizer Bunny, and he's been doing great work. And he's here to tell you about how the Alumni Association is going to be involved in making sure this university stays strong and grows for them.
I was at a Asian chamber luncheon yesterday, and sure enough, Neil was speaking and delivering a very similar message as today, so he is working tirelessly. And there's no question, this is very sobering news. As a 34-year resident of Las Vegas, I'm a product of our local school district, a graduate of this great university, and a local business professional, family man in our community, and your volunteer president of the UNLV Alumni Association. And I have to say, I feel threatened. My alma mater is being threatened. The community I love is being threatened. And I'm coming from a different perspective here today. I'm not employed by UNLV. I'm not a government elected official. I'm a local business professional volunteering his time with the Alumni Association Board. I want to assure each and every one of you, though, you're not alone. The private sector is impacted a great deal with these proposed budget cuts. We're all in this together, and we care as alumni and as business professionals working here in the Southern Nevada community. Now, our Alumni Association is organizing a grassroots effort on behalf of UNLV, the school that we love, and we will be in Carson City when this legislature begins. We'll be working with university leadership to continue to advocate the consistent message that Neil showed us all today in that packet. Our key messaging will include minimizing these budget cuts and allowing UNLV to be entrepreneurial in its approach to running a university. Now, here's where I need your help. Join me. Let's pull together with our advocacy efforts in that consistent message, those stories that you have to share about our great university. There's strength in numbers. And if we pull together as a community force, we can and we will make a difference. Choice is up to you. You want to sit on the sidelines and see what happens? Or do you want to speak up to your personal state legislature and advocate on behalf of UNLV? I sure hope it's the latter. This is very real. And now's the time to make a difference. Are you with me? Yeah. Thank you.
I think now you've got an idea that the community's behind us, our alum are behind us. We know the students are with us. I know all of you are with us. We know that Las Vegas needs a great university. We have delivered a great university in its infant form, and it will need to continue to grow and thrive so that the dreams of our students can be realized. You know, I think Las Vegas is actually the new home of the American dream. You can come here without much. First generation, you can come here as an immigrant. You can come here as someone who just moved and didn't have a penny. And you can make good. And part of the reason you can make good is because you can hit the highest heights. You can come and get a brilliant education and achieve anything that you want because our university is here to help. We're here to change lives. That dream has to continue. The partnership we've established with the city has to continue, and we need Las Vegas, and Las Vegas needs us. And so for all of you, community stakeholders, business partners, alumni, students, faculty, staff, classified staff, for all of us, this is something that we will win together. And working together, we're going to discover new ways to do business, new ways to impact our state, new ways to be proud of what we do. And I believe that that message will carry and that we will continue to be able to deliver. But we can't give up, we can't coast. You heard the message repeatedly here today. We are in it to win it. And so join with me. Join with this team. And I got to tell you, I couldn't be more proud of what I heard today from the stage platform party. You all, knowing that you stand at our backs, gives me more confidence and more hope than anything else that I've heard so far coming into this session. So working in partnership, we know we're going to do a great job. And I just say to all of you, you've got to feel heartened by this collection of support as well. Now, I know you're going to have a lot of questions, and I want to be able to let you express your concerns, tell the stories that you feel are important right now, and we have a collection of individuals on stage who can respond to specific details or concerns in the what you've heard in terms of proposals from the governor's office or in terms of the future of our legislative session. So with that, I would like to open the floor to questions and allow all of you to participate as much as you'd like. So we've got microphones here, and I think there's microphones over on this side. Raise your hand if you'd like to ask a question.
Thank you. I'd like you, if you would discuss briefly the proposed stadium and other construction projects. How would they affect the economic and political landscape and our arguments going up there? How does that affect the various budgets? And I'd just like to give you an opportunity to discuss, put that into the mix. And because what I'm afraid of is the average citizen, layman, is going to look at that and say, you know, UNLV has that brand new stadium over there, and why do they need more money? You know, I'd like for you to discuss that.
Well, I'm going to be very brief on that, and I'll point out that on February 1st, there'll be a press announcement concerning that will be delivered by the developers of the project at the Silverton. So let me just say a couple quick things about this. One of the things that I've always been concerned about, and I know everybody in this room is concerned about, is building a better campus community, a more vibrant community, a community that draws students here and keeps them here, because we know students are more successful when they spend more time on campus. One of the challenges we've had for years is that football's far away. It makes it hard for our students to get there, and it doesn't create that full campus environment that we're looking for. So when I have an opportunity to work with the Midtown project, with a new stadium project, with mixed retail development that could forever change the nature of our campus community, could build it, could create a destination spot, and could make a unique campus atmosphere in this country, certainly that's something that's of interest. I think the concern that I'm hearing from you is, well, how does that affect education here? And what I have to tell you is, no dollars that would be spent for education, academic support, services, and maintenance of our facilities would be used in any such project. The dollars that came into this would have to be private dollars, other than the sweat equity that our administration put in. And if we can find a way to expand the campus, enhance the campus, create a destination spot, and build our campus community for our students, then I think that's a game changer for our university, and it's the kind of entrepreneurial thinking that may add new revenue flows for the future that help to support us in facing the lack of support we're getting from the state. Are there more questions or concerns about the budget? I'd kind of like to keep it focused on that and not on the arena proposal.
Thank you for this meeting. I would like to know if you have set deadlines or dates for the information coming in the future.
You'll get an update with dollars and cents in it on the budget proposals today from me. We'll also be mounting those on the budget website so that you have that available. As key meetings occur today, I think you were very nicely previewed what will or should occur on Saturday morning at 9 a.m. And I know our students will be there in force, and I know I'll be proud of our students. I also know our business community will be there, and our alumni community will be there, because they have messages for our legislators about the importance of our university. We will keep you posted. I will send out periodic notices. When large events occur of concern, I will continue to call town hall meetings. I don't want to waste anyone's time, but I certainly want to make sure that you're getting the communication that you require. So I'll just say stay tuned, look for my emails, and watch the budget website.
On February 3rd, the board is going to have its first meeting devoted exclusively to discussing as a board the budget. That meeting on February 3rd is at the Desert Research Institute. That is a public meeting. There will be a portion devoted to public comment at that meeting. I would encourage and invite each one of you to attend that meeting. And then again on February 11th, there will be another special meeting called by the board to discuss the stadium project. Again, we want to talk about the budget today, but please put those two meetings down. Every one of you is invited, and we'd love to have as much support as we can at each of those meetings.
More questions?
Good morning, Neil. Ken Peffers from the MIS department. I had a question posed to me the other day from someone, and I have a feeling that this question or this assertion probably will be important in the public arena. And I tried to answer it as best I could, but I thought maybe a more sophisticated answer a more complete answer might be. I'm looking at you, yeah. And the assertion is this, that the assertion is that only 30% of the university's budget comes from state funds. And so therefore, whatever budget cut there is, won't be that drastic. Now my answer is simply, my response to that was, well, the other funds must mostly come from grants and gifts, which are largely restricted. But is there a better answer to that?
There is a better answer than that. If we don't include grants and gifts, and I don't believe we should include grants and gifts because they are restricted, although we can include the indirects on grants, then what you can see is that we have a declining contribution from the state. Now, I guess we could ask if that's a good thing or a bad thing, and you can play with numbers. You know, at some point when you don't get anything from the state, then state cuts don't matter a whole lot, do they? You know, there's the old joke that this university was state supported, and then it was state assisted, and now it's state located. I will tell you, it is true that the state base is declining. Now, bear in mind that that decline is quite severe. Our current state-based budget is $175 million. That is down from about 225, 230 at its peak, Jerry. Jerry, of course, I'm so happy to say is the best numbers guy in the system, and really, if there's anybody on top of numbers, it's Jerry. So he'll get out the hook if I get too far off cue here. 175 million is our current state base. By FY13, with the current proposed budget, it will be 125 million. All right? Now, you know, people go, well, it doesn't matter. Do you really think 47.5 million doesn't matter? Do you want to know how many colleges that supports? Or how much of our activity and base that supports? I mean, you know, I will not, and I have promised myself, use examples that are polemic today. But I will say 47.5 million after the cuts we've already endured, both to the non-academic side of the shop where we're wafer thin, and to the academic side of the shop where we've lost programs and have lost enrollment as a result, would be devastating. So I will tell you, anybody who tries to minimize the trauma of a $47.5 million cut needs to focus on absolute numbers and not on percentages, all right? Jerry, do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
One quick example, because this does come up on a regular basis, but there are other revenue streams. I'll give you one example. There's about $50 million in that total that this person's talking about that comes from the federal government for student financial aid. Well, you can't redirect that. There's probably another 40 to 50 million that comes from restricted grants and contracts. You cannot redirect that. The housing program on campus generates enough money to basically pay all its bills for the students that are in those dorms and for their food service and everything like that. There really isn't margins, I'm looking at Juanita, to redirect any of that. And so it's a large revenue number, but those are all self-supporting budgets who are right at the margin anyway. And so that is something that a lot of people talk about, but it's really not feasible at any level.
Actually, there's a really simple way of looking at it. You get your check at the end of every month, and your check has your tax out of it and your medical out of it. We won't have to worry much about that in the future. Sorry. And so you have take-home pay. And then you pay your rent. And then you pay your bills. Then you make your car payment. Then you buy food. Then you buy gas. And you're left with about that much. Well, we're going to take $47.5 million out of what's left. All right? That's a big, big number of our budget that goes to fuel the academic enterprise here. Thanks, Ken. More questions?
If students want to get more involved or faculty want to get more involved in these kind of events, I don't know if there's the opportunity for UNLV to organize some sort of easy way to get to the Grant Sawyer building as far as transportation, buses from the campus, something like that. Parking out there is just, you know, difficult. It'd make it easy for students to get involved, or faculty if they want to be on the bus.
Great, thank you for that question. Because of how soon this meeting came up, we didn't have the time to organize something of that scale to be able to transport students and faculty to the Grant Sawyer building, but we're going to do everything in our power to ensure that we can in the future. And if you're looking for a way to get involved for this Saturday's meeting, I'm going to direct you to our website, unlvcsun.com. And what we have on that is a 3-page sheet. The first page is an email that was sent from the Chancellor's office explaining a little more of the budget figures. The second page explains just a little brief tutorial about how to address the committee and how to make the case about why higher education and why keeping UNLV sustainable is important. And then the back is just a little notes to help keep you guys organized for the meeting tomorrow. So in the future, we will be doing more to rally students and give them the opportunity to attend these meetings easier. But we're looking forward to a great student faculty, community, and alumni turnout for tomorrow, and we hope to see you guys there.
Thanks, David. Do we have any other questions or concerns?
I have a question, Neil, over here. Given that the outcome of this process is not likely to be known until May or June or July even, do you have any kind of contingency planning that you envision to happen before this is all resolved?
Yeah, we're asking Mark Fine to write a check for us. Chris, I want to say there really isn't a potent contingency when what we have is the opportunity to wait for a budget to be delivered June 30th. And I don't think many of us will believe that June 30th is necessarily going to be the close of the session this time. It could extend into special sessions if things go awry. What I will tell you is that the major part of legislative action will be taking place fairly late in the session if it holds true to form, and that's when we're going to have to be very much on it. But then again, a veto override of a legislative action is something that puts us back into that type of ever-vigilant mode and means we have to be reactivated. You've heard me say many times this is a marathon, it's not a sprint. I'm not going to today overreact. What I will tell you is we begin. We begin with determination. We will run. We will continue to run. Based off the news and feedback we get, we may be starting to modify budget allocations, knowing that July 1st we're going to have certain marks that we have to hit. If that has to include hiring freezes, if that has to include other types of actions, we'll take them when it's prudent to take them. And I know that's not a completely satisfying answer to you, but I think right now we're in a reactive position as opposed to a proactive position because we don't really know where the budget's going to end up. And when you get a budget that says there's going to be approximately a 30% cut, I don't even know what the bargaining point looks like. 15% in the middle, is that something that's desirable? I would submit not very. So let's take a look, see, and what we're going to do is stay light on our feet and ready to react. Thanks, Chris. I know there was another question over here.
Hi, I'm Michelle Sanders. I'm with the Classified Council, and I represent the College of Liberal Arts. And one of the things that, because I really admire everybody up here who really wants to get something done and want to spearhead this activity. One of the things as a classified person, when we want to attend any events, usually we have to get permission, and usually the permission is not granted. Now, I would like you to give permission to say, we can go if we want to go, because we're energized too. We've invited former Senator Bob Coffin to our next meeting, so we can determine where we want to go on our end. So would you do that?
Come on up, Jerry. Okay. Oh, hold it. Don't take that as okay. To be honest, when we hold these types of events, we'd like as full a participation as we can. There are going to be time. I also don't want to see, the student admission desk empty. I don't want to see our ever-vigilant parking officers not paying attention, because I like it when my car is booted. No, I'm just joking. And there will, of course, be certain types of activities that are critical to campus support in which a dialogue needs to occur. But I do want to encourage participation, and I want to encourage the supervisors to help to make that possible when it doesn't otherwise compromise their activities, and I'll turn it over to Jerry.
I think you really highlighted that. The President's talking to everybody today, supervisors, state classified faculty, and others, to highlight how important this is. But there's a fine line there, because I can tell you some legislators might ask, are these state employees being paid during some time that they don't think would be appropriate. So we do have to walk a fine line there, and I think the best way is to work with the supervisor. And again, there's supervisors here. The communications that are coming out from the president are highlighting how important this is. So I think it's an individual judgment issue that has to be left there. At least that would be my advice to the president, not to sign anything on that.
Yeah, so, Jerry tells me what to do when I say yes, but I think you've got the sentiment. We really do want you involved, and I'll put it a different way. If there's a convenient time that others who weren't able to go to these types of activities need to gather and want to hear from us, I know that I can get the provost and Jerry and I to meet with you, and we'll meet at your time, at your convenience. How's that? Okay. Are there any last questions? I think we probably have time for about 2 more. I see Greg Brown.
You mentioned very briefly a moment ago something that I know you've given a lot of thought to, which is the impact of pay cuts and of health benefit cuts. The chancellor yesterday in Carson spoke quite extensively about both the economic and just human impact of that. Would you want to say anything about how that figures into either our advocacy strategy or just the economic impact of what's been proposed?
Certainly, you have heard me say before that I think the cuts to our medical benefits are amongst the most severe of the proposed cuts. I will tell you on a personal level, they influence everyone. They particularly, especially with the higher deductibles that are being discussed, I think their impact on our classified staff and on professional staff that aren't as well paid as some others is going to frankly be devastating. I think that the cuts will cause us to be an unwell community because we will not be able to afford deductibles and people will forego routine medical treatment. I know that we have been very, very deeply concerned about it. I know that the PEB board has put out a final set of recommendations, but our secret weapon in this battle has been Jerry Bomani, and I'm going to ask him to come up here and discuss, because he is heading the system-wide PEB board, or excuse me, medical benefits discussion, and he can fill you in on some of the thoughts that they're having right now.
The operative word was secret, so I can't really tell you anything there, but no. There is out on the NSHE website, effective yesterday, the final report to the chancellor for the NSHE task force that he created to look at the health care benefit recommendations and proposals coming out of the Public Employees Benefit Program Board. So I suggest you can go and look at that. It's a fairly large, detailed document, but I'd highlight a few things that are underscored in that document. One is that we worked with a consultant and we came up with detailed data and information that we believe is bulletproof, that basically says our current programs, when you look at national programs for public institutions of higher education, when you look at a custom survey for the western states public institutions of higher education, when you look at a custom survey for the other public employers in the state of Nevada, and when you look at a custom survey for the other private, large private employers in the state of Nevada. The data we have is contrary to what you saw a couple years ago coming out of the Sage Commission report and the Las Vegas Chamber initial report that talked in broad brush about public employees. And I think a lot of people thought those are state employees, university employees. They're not. We are an outlier in that statistic that was mentioned a couple years ago. And this data basically says that, in general, that our current program maybe puts us about the average, maybe just a little below when you look at everything. And where we're going for next July will clearly drop us down to a non-competitive state. And so we're very concerned about that. That data is highlighted in there. We look at and recommend some other specific action, but one key issue is that we've recommended to the chancellor, and he'll, I know, talk to the presidents and the board about it, is that we felt as a task force that our future should not be linked to PEBP, to be very blunt about it. We felt that we had to take some action in the near future to direct our own future and come up with our own proposals about health care for all employees within NSHE. And there's one example that we've given in the late 90s. Some of you may know this. I didn't know it until a few months ago. The Clark County School District was in PEBP. They moved out of it in 1999, January of 1999. They created 3 groups for coverage. And 11 years later, what you see, actual facts, are that their health care programs are far superior and less costly than what we have today, not to mention what we're going to in 6 months. And so, unfortunately, that may be an issue that's hard to get a lot of face time on with people in a legislative session that is going to have a lot of contentious issues. But our feeling was that health care is so critical to all of our employees and to recruitment and retention of our employees that the system needs to seriously consider other alternatives. Otherwise, we fear we'll be in the same old cycle that every 2 years we look at and see what comes out of PEBP and we say, wow, we're going down again. We think that can be stopped. We think there's a better future, and we'll see what the Chancellor thinks of our recommendations.
And I'll just put a exclamation point on the end of the sentence. If we can get out of the current system that we're in and establish our own, we'll all be better off. Okay, I think we have time for one more question. Going? Oh, we got one more. All right.
I went on the website and I put in an opinion, a question. Maybe Mr. Bamonte can answer this question. There are a lot of other companies that were putting in waivers for the medical plan. Why haven't we done that? Or can we do that? Would give us a little bit more time to investigate other options.
Well, help me understand when you say waivers, exactly what you're referring to.
Well, waiver under this current health care, national health care, there are companies that they don't have a program for their employees yet. So they've applied for the waiver so they don't have to get out of their current program because it gave them extra time to investigate other areas.
Sure.
Why can't we do that?
Okay, yeah, I think I understand your question. Let me try to respond. The majority of the federal health care requirements kick in 2014. A few of them have kicked in already. But the PEBP plan is compliant with the federal requirements right now. And so there's no need to ask for a waiver necessarily. And I will say that I'm not an expert on the federal plan, but you can be compliant with the federal plan, but still not have a very good health care program. And so between now and 2014, that's not really an issue right now. But that was one of the concerns of the task force, that we felt that given that the federal bar of health care in 2014 was being set up here, we may be here now. We thought the next step that the PEBP was taking was bringing us down here. And so it created an enormous step and challenge to get to 2014. But that issue of applying for a waiver or more time wouldn't really apply because the PEBP plan is currently meets all the federal requirements. The issue is in 2014, will there be issues out then? Thanks.
With that, I want to thank everyone for coming today. I take your presence as a sign of your deep concern and support for the long uphill fight that we have. I want to say to all of you, I hope, like me, that you are heartened by what you heard today. And I'm going to ask all of you to please let those on the platform know how much you appreciate their support with a big round of applause. All right, James Dean, there's your standing O. Okay, thank you all so much. Stay tuned. Let's see a big turnout at the Grant Sawyer building, and go Rebels.